Welcome to our newest episode of the Lebanese Physicians Podcast. Today we will be talking about entrepreneurship in medicine. And our guest today is Dr. Rachid Akiki. Rachid actually did his Bachelor of Science in Physics at the American University of Beirut, and subsequently did the beginnings of his medical school at Avalon University in the Caribbean, and afterwards transferred to Boston University, where he ended up doing his radiology residency and did a fellowship in nuclear medicine at Harvard University. But then somehow Rachid decided not to go into clinical practice and chose a different pathway for himself. And right now he is based in Boston and talking to me from Miami, Florida. I envy him a bit, but I think it's very hot over there right now, so that's fine from my standpoint. So, Rachid, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Actually, it's really cool here. I heard 2 days ago it was super hot in Boston and New York, so probably it was hot as well in DC.
It was very hot, yes, 2 days ago, right?
Right.
So Rachid, so what happened? So you did your radiology residency, you did your fellow nuclear medicine subspecialty, and then suddenly you're like, okay, I'm not going to do clinical medicine. I'm going to go into something else. Like, how did you end up doing that?
So I was mostly focused into nuclear medicine and into the molecular imaging, mostly in my training at Harvard. It was at MGH, and you get exposed to so many the public companies that once they find a tracer, they would go and they would open their own company, and they start raising funds, and they start to go and pitch for all those the big pharma company about what did they find. And I saw this was amazing, and their lifestyle would change drastically from the lab bench work to the entrepreneurship world, and it was very captivating. So as soon as I finished, I was doing some real estate in Boston, and I had kind of some of my management skills. Since I was a kid, I always had this aspect for, like, I could spot a good opportunity in business, and I decided that maybe it's time to do an MBA and just get those skills that are lacking from my medical school or from my medical education. And those skills, you would be surprised, but they are very, very vital for any doctor, like accounting and like finance, and just understanding the basic economics of the world. And although the MBA is not necessarily a good program to go into so much depth into this subject, but as a medical doctor, or as a non-business guy, I feel it added so much value in order to understand what's happening around you, how to do a P&L sheet, how to know the differences between assets and the liabilities, and how to read a financial statements. So I went to the MBA, and I literally, my eyes opened up to so many opportunities for a medical doctor in the business world.
And that's what led you afterwards. So you did it. I guess when you do the MBA, it's important to do it because you learn a lot about accounting and financial sheets. It's very complicated. Like, I've done some courses, but I haven't done an MBA, and I think it's very complicated. It needs a lot of mathematical analysis and stuff like that. But the other part of it is, I think you meet a lot of people when you're doing your MBA, right, from different backgrounds.
Right, and I would say that this is the biggest asset of trying to think to go to an MBA, because the people and their experience from the business world is actually what brings value to an MBA. So usually, if I were to suggest for anybody to do an MBA, I would suggest them to do them at an Ivy League school or one of the top 5 MBAs, if they are already into business or into engineering. Now, as a medical doctor, it would be better to go into the top 5 Ivy League schools. But if you're just seeking this bit of knowledge that will spark your entrepreneurship career, then probably any MBA would do it. And I did mine at Hult International School of Business. So it was mostly a very international cohort. And, you would be surprised, but there were so many people, like there was a dentist, there was like but the pharmacists, they were like so diverse, and you learn from everybody, literally. And this is the biggest value of an MBA, because at the end, you can find those courses anywhere on the internet, right? If you want to learn accounting, you can go and get a course and learn it there. I mean, as medical doctor, I don't think we have any hard time in learning anything new, since we went through hell during medical school. So if we set our mind to learn anything, we can do it. The only difference is with the MBA, they just give you what you exactly need, and you go through cases of like big companies and how they made it, and what was the difference, which you might not find in in all those other courses online.
Right. And so your first entrepreneurship, I guess, before your MBA was going to the real estate world. But then afterwards, looks like you left that. And what was your first project after you finished your MBA? What did you go into?
So actually, I was way before into business. I was mostly into, like, even when I was at AUB, we used to do event management. I used to be a student representative at AUB for all those 3 years as an undergrad. So I was very much involved into event management and management of students and activities. And I started my first company in Beirut about marketing. So it goes back long before real estate. But real estate was a very important phase because Boston is so expensive, and I come from a very modest family in Lebanon, and my dad wouldn't really afford to pay the rent sometimes. So I had to think outside of the box, and sometimes the circumstances around you drives you to drive profit. So and this is how I started. I had no money at all, actually, and I had really good relationships with my landlords, and I would take the house and I would manage it on their behalf instead of having a management company. And actually, I would like truly make almost 100% return on my rent investment from all the sublet. And once you replicate this model a couple of times, you quickly get to a 6 figures easily, and you would say that, oh my God, all this time to manage just a couple of people and it's just giving you like a 6 figure, it's really straightforward. And why can't we expand on that? And so real estate was mostly about management, not necessarily about truly going and trying to invest into real estate, because at that time I didn't have the money. But then slowly, once you build up, then you start making partnership, then you start, LLCs, and you get a house with some partners and you rent it out and you move out, So like I think real estate is a very stable and very solid business for anybody who's working in a different career, in business. So after real estate, I started a marketing company also in Boston. And what I was doing is mostly the driving traffic and patients to doctors online. And that was amazing. And so this is where I made the shift. I'm like, okay, my lifestyle is good. Why would I go in the dark room or behind a microscope or, do all this work for like literally, the same amount of money when I'm living on my own terms? And I went to the MBA, and then I said, okay, I got my green card at that time, which was really cool. And I said, all right, let me go and try to experience the corporate world. And, obviously the first stop as a medical doctor with an MBA, you would go to the pharma, to the dark side.
Right.
So I went.
So you went to the dark side then.
I went to the dark side, and actually it wasn't as dark as you would think. So I wanted to experience a new state, a very sunny state. So I went to Florida, and I was the director of management of the clinical operations. So I was the head of 3 global clinical trials. And it was amazing because this company was like a startup. It wasn't really a huge, big company. And I'm kind of the guy who likes startups. I like when truly people wear so many hats and take really initiative, and they're not told what to do, but they take the initiative to do it. And that's what set truly people who are successful and not successful, right? If you just do what you're told to do, you're going to succeed, but you're not going to go that much, right? But if you take initiative, you take risks, you assess, you reanalyze what you did and what you didn't do, this is when you're truly you have a chance of making it happen. So there they were developing an amazing software, which was a decentralized software to manage all those trials. And we had patients in Russia, in Ukraine, in Kiev, in the Middle East, in Miami, in Florida, in Michigan, like literally, and it was so hard to manage all those patients because the FDA regulations is super tough, and every data is like a huge project by itself. So I learned from them so much, and I said, all right, I think I can do it by myself as well. So beginning.
So it's one question for you before you continue is you were managing, like, clinical trials were happening all over the world, not only US based clinical trials, right?
Right. So the clinical sites, basically, if you have a clinical trial, mostly at this company, what we were doing is we were targeting rare diseases. Rare diseases is a very hot subject for all those big companies because, as they say in business, it's a blue sea. And in the blue sea, you have no competitors, right? So if you go into a red sea, let's say if you do research and a very common disease, you have so many competitors. Everybody is on the merge of a discovery. But if you pick a very rare disease and you bring the KOL, of that subject matter, and you work with them, and you are the only one who's trying to innovate on that level, it's very profitable at the end. And it's not only about profit, but like you're helping also those people who have no hope of a treatment. And it's so hard to find those patients. Like one of the biggest struggle and the biggest obstacle for those companies is to find those rare diseases patients, right? So the search is global, and we try to make relationships with all the clinical sites, all the hospitals everywhere until we find those patients, right? And that's why it was internationally.
Okay, got it. So it's basically similar to the NIH, but on a startup scale.
Right. So it's like private, like the NIH is mostly about the government, and they give you like government fund. But in a private company, you always have the sponsors that are looking for that niche or for that disease or for that type, of treatment. And the NIH will not truly cover everything. So you have all those small private companies that are tackling other aspects.
Right. And then how did you, so you said at the end, you decided, okay, I can do this on my own. So what did you do at that point?
So every phase in life, you learn something, right? So let's say from the event management, you learn how to deal with, lots of chaos. In the real estate, you learn how to deal with slubs, drug addicts, like so many kind of, all kinds of people. So during the clinical trials, I was very impressed about the decentralization and how you can do things remotely, and and like how, like, there is a way that you can do things and you can automate things around you that brings so much value, and actually that can make you look like your work is equal to 10 people's work. Okay. And this is the value that this company was doing. So everybody thought that this company was huge. We had thousands of employees, but actually we didn't. All what we did, we had like an amazing system, so much automations that your work is so replicated, so that everybody feels like, oh my God, you did so much, but with so little. So I took this concept, and in the December 2019, I left the company and I started Bookzdoctor, and I used exactly the same systems, the same automations. And now we search for rare diseases as well, but we do it through the telemedicine platform as well, and it is also decentralized. And yeah.
And so this is your newest endeavor right now, is Bookdeez, right?
Right, correct.
So have you, so you basically, when you went and started a company on your own, you need to get investors with you, right? To convince some investors to back you up, right?
Right. So the thing is that, every business that I started it from scratch. So you didn't have any investment. And I always try to think outside of the box. And I always try to think, okay, what can I do to provide money so I can apply my ideas? And this is how we came up with. So basically, we have no investors, but we are bootstrapped, which means that we generate money that funds all our activities. So, and at that time, we had COVID, right? So COVID hit, we had the restrictions, things were going downhill. And I thought that it might be a good idea to start a behavioral psychology program online that will make people more disciplined, more accountable to themselves. And the coaching industry has been booming in the past 2 years. And, I said to myself, all right, maybe we should try to develop those programs. So we have the Mind Hack program and we have the Body Hack program. So the Mind Hack is basically a course, and it's an experience basically where we assign a coach to you that teaches you the hacks of how to overcome any obstacles or any mental block that you have about anything in your life. And it's a 12-week program, so there's no prescriptions, and you have a coach, a behavioral psychologist, and a psychiatrist always that are trying to follow up with you, trying to guide you and give you advice on some issues that might be trivial to you but not to other people, or vice versa. And during COVID, actually, we saw a huge boom in our program. So we had lots of people who were buying our programs, and we started the fitness one as well. So it's called the Body Hack. So the Body Hack as well, we use instead of just using the diet and the coach that just will tell you exactly what you need to do at home, as an exercise. We use also the psychological tools that instead of having a restrictive diet, we just make you, we just tell you eat whatever you want, but don't worry, we're gonna work with you on a psychology plan where you're gonna feel good about yourself when you want to lose weight. Because most people, when they lose weight, they have this like, oh my God, I don't want to eat burgers, I don't want to drink beers anymore, and then they go back into it. So it's all about psychology. And so we boosted those programs a lot, and we're doing really well. And those programs are generating actually the money so we can develop our vision.
Wow. And how do you advertise? Like, how did you advertise these programs? Like, they just because I guess you advertise it first and it's word of mouth afterwards, right?
Right. So we started through Facebook and through Instagram, because everybody was at home, everybody was on the internet, everybody was like kind of like truly connected to the net. And our program is online. So basically we connect you, and we have our own apps. So we developed our own apps, and now we are developing our own web app. So we have an iOS app and for the Mind Hack, and we have an Android and an iOS app for the Body Hack. And yeah, as you said, we start through small marketing, friends and family. Why don't you take it for half the price, or try it out. If it works, good for you. If it doesn't work, what did go wrong? How can we improve? And you build a team around you. Like the biggest aspect is that everybody has to understand that no matter how good they are as good as their team, right? So you have to pick up like a good team, people who have incentives that are as aligned as you, right? Because if you pick up a team member whose only goal is to make money, then yeah, he's gonna work until he makes money, but he's not gonna work, if he doesn't have the same vision, the same incentives as you do. So that was the key part.
And so what is your goal now with bookzdoctor? So what is your goal with this app? And
right. So that's a great question. And actually, we have been discussing, me and my team, for the past 3 to 4 months, and we just started the execution. So we have a very bold plan, and hopefully we will succeed at it. I'm not sure if we will, but hopefully we will. we are hoping to decentralize electronic medical records. What does that mean? It's a big word. So now, as you know, every hospital has his own system, his own EMR. You have Epic, you have eClinicals, you have Aetna Health. And this company makes it super hard to really try to integrate everything together. You need APIs and all these stuff. And with the rise of the blockchain technology, we hope to create a system where every patient becomes the owner of his own data, and he can choose to share them with whoever doctor he wants to see. All his history, like how many of us have struggled anytime we go into residency or into a fellowship to get all our vaccine history, for example, right? You have to call your primary care from Lebanon, when I was 3 years old, which Hep B did I get? What time did I get it? Did I get the BCG? Did I get, So by doing this, actually, we hope to try to innovate in the healthcare. The healthcare is a very solid and a very rigid a place to try to innovate in, because there's so many stake from so many players. But hopefully, if we give this power to the patient and we give the patient the power to decide what he wants to do with his own data, maybe this would start a good change.
But how do you, you're saying decentralized, but when the patients still go to the hospitals, there's still information still going to be on Epic or Cerner or whichever other EMR that they're using, right? But I know there's some programs right now, but it's state specific where you can potentially have a cloud-based system. Is that what you're talking about? More like a cloud-based system that's nationwide, or no?
So the cloud-based system, there will still be a source who is controlling this data. We don't want to control this data, so we don't own this data, right? So the patients own it. So the beautiful thing about the blockchain is that it is owned by as many people as they use it, right? So yes, all those people have still data on all those systems, but I feel we believe that if we create a very easy system for this data to be transferred to the blockchain, then automatically those people are going to move to that field instead of keeping their records on the Epic. And every patient has the power to request his own data, right? So we are working with our tech team so we can provide a very easy system so the patient can provide a link to the IT of the hospital, and all his data will be downloaded and transferred to his own blockchain.
So I understand it now. So basically, it's more of a patient-centered system rather than talking to the hospitals to download the data on your system.
Correct, because no hospital is going to do that. Right. No company is going to do that. They own the data, and the more data you own, the more money. Exactly. So if we go back to the basics and we give the power to the patients, right, and that will change things.
Yep. And I think, so what you've done is, always entrepreneurship takes a lot of risk. Even if you talk to for example, the founder of Amazon, right? He's taken a lot of risks in his life and failed miserably multiple times, that finally was able to make it. And everybody thought he was crazy when he started Amazon. So basically, you not only have to have the mindset for this, but you have to act on your idea, take the risk, and believe that you will succeed, but you could also fail. But then if you fail, you can start all over again. And I feel that's what you're doing right now, right?
Exactly. And if I were to give one learnings from my experience, is that it's not always about the money. Money is good, of course. It will help you stay sustainable. But sometimes if you believe in a vision, if you believe that you can do something that will help your friends around you or the people around you that you care about, then you will make so much eventually. And actually, I had a very good experience when I used to be in the Caribbeans. I didn't have money as well, and I was actually sleeping on a couch at my colleague's apartment for like 2 months. And I was wondering, how can I pay my tuition? How can I do this? And with all those uh, the histology courses and all this anatomy, it was so hard. So, and literally on a Tuesday night, I remember there was a bar close to our campus. And 2 weeks before that, I started a Facebook page, and we went, me and my friend, and we took some pictures of the island, and we grew this page exponentially to 1,000 like. And on that Tuesday night, I created an event, and I told everybody to come have a beer. So Tuesday night is a very dead night for this bar owner. And truly, like, more than 60 people came to this bar. And the owner was like, oh my God, who did this event? I want to make business with them on a Tuesday night. I don't make any money usually. You know how it is. So, everybody told him about me. And then, he came to me. He was like, hey, would you want to partner with me? If you bring more people, I'll give you more money. And I thought about it. And I'm like, well, I need the money, but do I truly want to ruin my reputation and lose all those friends that were helping me have a good time on the island and in my medical school and everything? So I said, wait, I will come back with a better idea. So the next day I came back and I told him, look, I don't want any profits from you. Whatever you sell for yourself. All I need is an opportunity to be at the door. And I will charge $5 as a cover. And I will choose whoever I want to let in. And basically what I did is all my friends were coming in for free. And everybody that I didn't know, well, had to pay $5, right? So basically, it's as if I was giving my friend $5 just to come and enjoy. And I was making a night maybe $100, $200, which was like by 2 or 3 hours. And I thought this was amazing. And actually, the biggest surprise is that, on an island, when everybody knows everyone, then everybody has now an incentive to get to know me because they would enter for free if they would know me, So things would go, and like it was a truly a snowball effect. And literally in 2-3 months, I was probably the biggest well-known guy on the island, and I was friends with the prime minister and his kids. They were coming, it was crazy. It was like truly an amazing
to get in for free.
So this is just a story to say that, money is good, but it shouldn't always be the first thing that comes on the mind. You always have to think about what makes the people around you happy, because you truly are successful when everybody around you is successful.
Right. It's making everybody around you happy, and you also being happy with what you're doing. Because you could be making huge amounts of money but doing something that you hate.
Exactly.
So that's important. So what advice, to end it here, what advice would you give MDs in training, students, or even physicians in practice if they want to branch out, do something on the side, or even they want to leave medicine? I mean, a lot of them probably would think, oh my God, this is a huge risk we're going to be taking. I have my income that's stable right now, and I'm suddenly going to lose it. So what advice would you give them?
Right. I would say it depends on each, but it's always good to do something out of the norm. You will feel alive, even though you would lose money, but you would learn a lot. Right. And I think at some point, everybody wants to try to diversify, their life. They want to be known not only as a medical doctor, they want to be known as well as a parent, as a dad, as a mom, as an uncle. So it's so important to have a life. It's so important to care about, your happiness as well as the well-being of your patients. And if you are able to come up with passive income that will give you this opportunity to enjoy life, then yes, go ahead and do it. Don't be scared. Life is short. I'm sure so many people know that in medicine, and it's truly an amazing experience. It's not gonna feel good to do something that you're not used to, but read as much as you can, learn as much as you can, and take risks. This is the biggest advice I could say.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Rachid. That was a great discussion that we had.
Thank you.
And I hope after this discussion, maybe people who are listening, some people will try to take some risks. I think the key is you have an idea, try to act on it. Don't like just sit around and say, oh, it's scary, I'm not going to do it. Just do it. Right?
Exactly.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.